So today's video is going to be a little bit different. People who follow my channel already know this, but if you're just stumbling across this video, I'm an eBay seller, but I was working for Amazon for about 3.5 years while I had my part-time eBay business on the side. And I eventually quit Amazon, and now I just sell on eBay full-time. Most of the videos on this channel are about my eBay selling journey, so if you're interested in that, you can check those out. If not, I'm going to be sharing my experience working at Amazon. I have been waiting years to make this video. I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of working at an Amazon fulfillment center, what it's like in my experience working there. I worked for Amazon for 3.5 years, so it's not like I was in there for 2 weeks or 1 month and like this place sucks. And like I got a good sample size of what it's like to work for this company in one of their warehouses, specifically a fulfillment center. Before I get started, I'm specifically talking about a fulfillment center. Amazon has tons of different kind of buildings that do different kinds of things. So your experience at those buildings might be different. This is for a fulfillment center. And also specifically in that fulfillment center, I'm talking about the outbound department. These buildings are massive, like huge. Like I think the building that I was at was something around 17 football fields. Like it's a huge building. And within that building, there's outbound department and an inbound department. I was an outbound, you don't really get to pick, you just get placed somewhere. So I have no idea what goes on in half of this massive building. So I'm not talking about that department. Maybe you worked at a building like this in the inbound department and had different experience. I have no idea what goes on over there. I'm specifically talking about outbound, and within the outbound department, there's three major roles you can have. There's lots of other little side roles you can do as well, but there's three major roles. There's the pick department, the pack department, and the ship dock. I never worked in the pick department, so I don't have experience driving the forklifts or anything like that. I'm talking about the pack department and ship dock. That's where I used to work. So just narrowing that down, because my experience might be completely different than yours, depending on what role you had in the building or depending on what kind of building you even worked in the first place. So I don't want this video to be all just cons and talk bad about the company. I want to give it a fair evaluation, go over the pros and the cons of the company, at least from my personal experience. Your experience might be different. We'll go over the pros first. The pay could be a pro or a con depending on who you are. For me, the pay was decent. It's not great, but it was decent. If you're working like, I don't know, retail or fast food or something like that, like the pay is going to be way more. And it sounds better than it is, but then when you look at like an overall yearly salary for what you do, it's not as good as it should be with a massive company like this. We'll get more into that later though. So the pay could be a pro or con depending on your situation. You know, if you're moving up from a kind of crappy job to that, then you know it's a boost. It's not minimum wage or anything like that. So they do pay you at least a little bit. But for a company that size and like how big and good of a company it is, I would expect to get paid more. But we'll get more into that later. Also, for most of the time I worked there, we got paid bi-weekly, but towards the end, maybe the last 6 months, they started doing a weekly pay, which was actually pretty cool. I liked that because you got paid and then a day went by and then 6 days later you got paid again. So I appreciate the weekly pay, but some people might not work for them because they spend it faster. I don't know. But I considered that a pro towards the end of it, but most of my experience there, I was getting paid bi-weekly. Another pro would be the insurance and the 401k program. At Amazon, they have really good insurance. I was getting medical, dental, and vision for like, back when they were doing bi-weekly pays, I think like $17 a check or something like that. But that's because I'm single. I don't have any kids or anything like that. Obviously, you have a family plan, it's gonna be more. But for like less than 40 bucks a month, I was getting all that coverage. Like the insurance is really good. There was a lot of people that just worked there for the insurance. Like they didn't even care about like their paychecks. They were just there to have insurance. So if you don't have insurance and stuff, it's really good. Also, they do have a 401k plan. They do match, but only half of up to 4%. So if you put in 4%, they'll put in an additional 2%. Anything more than that, like if you put in 5, they cap it out at 2. So if you put in your 4%, they match. It's like you're getting 6%. So not too bad. It could be better. Like a lot of companies will match straight up. But I mean, I've worked at companies too that don't match at all. So it is, I don't know, it is what it is. Like I'll take it. At least it's matching something. But they don't really mention it, and you know, I invest on my own and stuff, so I looked into it. But the match doesn't vest for 3 years, meaning the match will show up in your like you'll see it in your portfolio and stuff like that. But if you quit the company before 3 years, you don't get to keep that match. It gets taken away. It takes 3 years to vest. So they don't really make that obvious. You have to read the fine print. A lot of people aren't really knowledgeable about investing, so they don't understand that. But just something to note there. Also, another pro, which could be a con too, depends on who you are, it was the schedule. For me, it was a 4-day work week. So you got a 3-day weekend every week. However, you work 10-hour shifts, so you're still working your 40 hours. And I kind of like it. I got so used to the 3-day weekend that when I would have a 2-day weekend, it would just seem so weird. But if you have some traveling to do to get to work, it takes up your whole day. If you live 5-10 minutes away, 15 minutes, it's not a big deal. You still have time to do stuff. But if you're driving 45 minutes, an hour to get to work, and you're working the 10-hour shift, like work takes up the whole day. I felt like my life got put on pause for 4 days when I worked, because I would get up, go to work, come home, eat dinner, shower, go to sleep, and just repeat for 4 days. I didn't have time to do anything at all, like nothing. Otherwise, I'd be tired. You can't come into work tired. You're lifting heavy boxes all the time. It just doesn't work like that. So that kind of sucked, but the 3-day weekend was nice. So I guess it just depends on who you are. Towards the end of it, I was kind of wishing I could go to the 8-hour 5 days. That way I could still at least do something every day. But I mean, that's just how it is. So that could be a pro, could be a con, but for a while I really liked the 3-day weekends every week. Another pro, if you're used to jobs that are like dealing with the public, you don't have to do that here at all. You don't deal with customers, you don't see them, it's all behind the scenes. And I specifically go for jobs like that because I don't like dealing with the public. People are just stupid. I can't keep my cool with that. It's very hard. I don't know. For some people, they're just better off behind the scenes. I was one of them. That's why I looked into this job in the first place. However, then you got to deal with coworkers, which is almost just as bad. But we'll get to that later. Another pro is I actually made a lot of friends here. The building's massive. I mean, they have overnight shifts as well, but between the day shift and overnight shift, I could be wrong, but I think there was around like 1,000 employees. So there's a lot of people that work there. You're just like one little ant in the whole ant farm. But I ended up making a lot of friends while working there, which I was surprised. So yeah, that's definitely a pro. Another pro is if you want to, you have the potential to move up. Like to become a supervisor, become a manager. Now you have to like show that you want it, and even then you might not get picked. But if you really like put your mind to it and decide that you want to be a supervisor there and you work hard and stuff, you have a good chance of actually getting it. And you know, if that's what you want to do, there's potential to make more money. You could just keep moving up. Like you could really just start at the company and just work your way up, work there for years, and you probably make a decent amount of money. That wasn't for me though. We'll get to more of that later. Another pro, in my opinion, is the time off. We got a lot of time off. We would have vacation time, PTO, which stands for paid time off, and UPT, unpaid time off. So you got 3 different time off options. Vacation, I think you got a year or 1 week for up to a year. But if you work there for more than a year, you got boosted up to 2 weeks vacation. PTO, you got 48 hours a year, and UPT, you got 20 hours a quarter, which turns out to be 80 hours a year. So if you've been there for at least a year, you were getting 4 weeks plus 8 hours, like almost like a month of time off, which is crazy. It's a lot, and it's really cool. However, this is how it works. You get to manage your time yourself. If you run out of time, automatic termination. But so you're responsible for your own time off. Like they have an app and a website and all that, and it shows your balance of all your time, and you just type it in. Like vacation, you needed 24 hours in advance, but the other 2 times you could use on any time you want, split second. If you were having a bad day, you could literally just walk out in the middle of the shift. No one would say anything. As long as you had time, it's up to you. You could wake up in the morning though and feel tired, and all you have to do is open up an app and push a button. You don't have to go to work. No one will question you. No one will call you. No one will ask you where you were when you get back to work. Like they don't care. You're responsible for your own time. And if you're good at managing that, it's really nice because you don't have to like make up excuses or I was sick. You have the time, you take it off. Lots of people would just leave mid-shift, like just out of nowhere. The day was going bad. Like seriously, I've seen like 10 people just all at once just walk out for like the last hour or something. Like, screw this. Yeah, so like that's just how it is. It's crazy. I can't believe they allow that to happen. But yeah, you get all your time off options and you're responsible for managing it. But if you go to zero, it doesn't matter how good a worker you were or your status or anything. You go to zero time, automatic termination, your badge won't even let you in the building. No questions asked, no second chances. Like that's just how it goes. So for some people, that's really good, but for other people it's pretty dangerous, because if you're super lazy, once a week you wake up, you don't feel like going to work, you take the time off, you take the day off, you could run out of time real quick. And then lots of people were down to like 1 minute or something, so like if they were even 1 minute late to a shift, they're just gone. Another pro was this option called VTO, Voluntary Time Off. So if it was slow in the building or gonna be slow, they would just go around asking people, do you want VTO? Now, if you took VTO, you would get to go home, you get to leave, you would not get paid, but you would not use any of your time. So I don't know, it's really good for some people that only want to work there part-time. The downside is, though, you don't know when this is going to happen. Like sometimes there was months where the VTO would be an option. You got so used to it. Like you could only work 1-2 days a week if VTO was an option. I've literally walked into the shift and within 3 minutes, someone, you want VTO? Yeah. Scan your badge, I clock out, I worked 4 minutes, good to go home. Now you don't get paid. So, I mean, that's the thing. Some people won't take it, but it is cool that it's there. And sometimes it would be slow a day in advance. They would just send a text and you could like take it the night before where you don't even have to drive there. Sometimes it'd be like halfway through the shift. But sometimes it would go months and there'd be no VTO at all. So you couldn't predict it. If it's busy, there's none. And if it's slow, it's there all the time, to the point where like, some people are just too tempted to take it. They need money, but it's just all they have to do is say yes and they get to go home. And yeah, I don't know. I like the option though. That brings me to overtime. So when it is busy, there's mandatory overtime. And if you're looking to make money, there's money to be made. But if you're looking to have a life, then yeah. I mean, you're working 10-hour days and you can work up to 6 days a week. You can't work more than 60 hours, but you're working 60 hours a week, 10-hour days. I know some people work a lot and it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're doing this kind of work that we'll get to in a minute, like heavy lifting and stuff, it just kills you, man. Like I usually by like day 3 and day 4, I'm just so done. My body's exhausted. And then you got to do 50, 60 hours of it. And then you only get 1 day to rest, which you basically have to run errands for because you couldn't do anything all the days you're at work because it takes up the whole day. And then you go back, like it's brutal, man. Okay, so now let's get to the cons. One of the main cons is there's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a very physically demanding job. Some tasks you're going to do are going to require less lifting than others. We'll get to that later. But for the most part, you're lifting heavy boxes and you're doing it for 10-hour shifts and you're doing it every week. And if you do this for years, it's just draining, man. Like people are excited first. They work there for a couple months, but I mean, after a while, like, I worked there for a while. By the end of it, I was just, oh man, I couldn't imagine doing that for like 5-10 years. Like your back would just be broken at that point. It's also draining. Like some tasks, you're just doing the same thing. Like a task might take like 30 seconds, maybe even less, and you're just doing it for 10 hours straight. And part of that task is lifting stuff. And sometimes you'd be at work and after 1 hour, you're like, I have 9 more hours of this to go. And then after that, I have to come back here for 3 more days. Like it's just, oh man. But I don't know, some people don't mind it. For me, I thought I didn't mind it and I didn't mind it for a while, but after doing it for years, it just got to the point where it's just like, I can't do this anymore. Another con is pretty much anyone gets hired. So the hiring process for me is I walked into a group interview and the first thing they said is if you can pass a drug test and want any of these shifts, you have a job. They also say they do background checks, but I honestly don't believe that they do that based on people I've seen work there. But apparently they do background checks, and I don't do drugs, so I don't have to worry about not passing the drug test. But from what I hear, it's a very easy drug test to pass, even if you are doing drugs. It's just like a mouth swab thing, and there's many ways to get around it. In the building that I worked at, like if they did a drug test and drug tested the whole building, I would predict that 25 to 50% of the building would be fired, which is probably why they didn't do that. They do random drug tests though. I've seen them do it. They say it's random, but I think they just target people they know that will fail if they want to fire them and they have an excuse to fire them. Because anyone gets hired, you're going to get schlub workers. Like, oh man, It's just bad. So if you want to, and if you're trying to move up, then you got to work hard, whatever. Like, I get that. But if you're not interested in moving up in the company and you don't want to do a lot of work, seriously, just roll up on day one with sweatpants and some Velcro shoes on, and they're not going to expect much of you. If they do know that you're a hard worker, they'll give you the harder jobs. If they know you're incapable of lifting stuff, then you typically get the easier jobs. It's very, it sucks. That's just how the way it works. I mean, there is, like, when I was getting hired in the interview process, the group interview, they said multiple times, you need to be able to lift 50 pounds. You need to be able to lift 50 pounds. I was almost convinced, like, maybe I shouldn't do this job. You know, I might not be able to keep up with it. And then I show up, there's like old people, like over 70 years old. There's like women that weigh like 85 pounds. And these people clearly aren't the right choices for the job. It's just how it is. And I was like, what was I worried about? And then these people, they know they can't do it. I don't know why they hire them in the first place, but they do. They just hire anyone. And then these people, not much is expected of them. And then if they know you're capable of doing stuff, you're expected to do more. And it's very crappy. Like, that bothered me a lot. There's times in the day, like, I think on the last day I only worked a half day. And I was in one area where there's just 3 people. And I looked at the numbers, because you can look it up, at like halfway through the day. I had done like 500 something boxes, and the other 2 people I was working with each did like 200 something. I did more than double than what they did. Like, I wasn't even trying that hard. I was just going a regular pace. Like, but the bar is set so low that if you want to get recognized there, you don't have to do much, really. Just like, I don't know. I didn't even try most of the time. I just worked like average pace. Like, I wasn't not trying, but I would like be way faster than a ton of people. Like, if I actually wanted to get promoted or actually tried, like, it would have been so easy because the bar just set so low. In my opinion, they should, if they're going to do the hire anyone off the street type hiring process, just make it a temp thing where it's like, hey, you got a 3-month trial, 1-month trial, whatever, and then just keep the good people, and then you'll need less people, and then you can pay those less people more because all those people are actually working. There's tons of people there that they're just trying to do as little work as possible. And I understand that, but when it affects you too, it gets it's just really bad situation. People would just purposely like avoid working, just like where's this person? And normally I don't worry about that. Like, I do my job, do what I gotta do. What other people do, that's their problem. But there's sometimes when someone else's job affects your job. For instance, if you're packing, you're in this pack station, you have all the different kind of boxes lined up all around you. And you're going, you can't really stop. If you run out of a certain box, or when you're running low, you put this light on, and a person called the water spider is supposed to refill your boxes for you, so you don't have to leave your station and stop packing because you're on a rate. If that person doesn't do their job, then it makes you look bad because your numbers are done, because now you're doing 2 jobs. You're refilling your boxes when they should be doing it. And there'll be days where, like, seriously, 5 hours would go by and like no one's filled my boxes. Like, it doesn't take that long. If you're backed up, maybe 10-15 minutes go by, I understand that, but 5 hours, I'm like, who is even doing this? Like, and there's some people, they just don't care. They're just like, oh, they're just walking around and like don't even do it. There's been multiple times where I have to go up to supervisors. The longer I worked there, the more ballsy I got with like telling supervisors about like in a nice way, do your job. Because they were going to fire me at that point. But I'd have to go and be like, yo, it's been 5 hours. So-and-so hasn't even brought me 1 box. Like, how are you guys not even aware of this situation? Like, you guys are the managers, the supervisors. You're supposed to be going around, make sure everything's running smooth. I shouldn't have to tell you this. Like, that would happen all the time. Like, oh, it's so bad. But yeah, and like, a lot of people that work there, at least from my experience, were like super young people, like 19, 20 years old, and then super old people that just messed up, that are like still have to work, and they're like 70 years old and stuff like that. So like me as like a middle-aged guy in his 30s, I kind of felt out of place a lot of the time. But it is what it is. Most of the young people are just there goofing around. The old people, even if they want to try, they're just too old. They can't do the job. So then the people in the middle are the ones stuck doing, like, you know, they rely on those people to pick up the slack from the other people. And it's really, you shouldn't have hired those people in the first place. But that's just how they do it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like an 85-pound woman can't lift the box all the time. Like, some can, some are capable. There's plenty of work there that do, but like
they can't lift 20 pounds and they need help every time. Every time they have to go get someone to help them lift the box. It's like, why is this person working here? Old person can't even walk more than 2 miles an hour, is there, and they got to walk all around the building. Like, why is this person working here? I don't know. They should be more picky with who they hire, but that's just how they do it. So that's the work they get. Yeah, there's also these, what I noticed, called like the wannabe supervisors. These are the people that like realize that if you're a supervisor, you don't have to do as much work, or at least not as much physical work. And they just like walk around fast. And most of the people that do this were never the best workers in the first place. They're just like trying to pretend like they are. And they just walk around all fast and pretend like they're trying to get stuff done. It's, dude, you're doing everything possible to not lift a box right now. Like, stop. I would notice this all the time from certain people. And then they would walk around like trying to boss people around like they were already. It's like, dude, you're not in charge, man. Shut up. Get out of here. You're not in charge. And there's tons of people like this. They would just, in their mind, they're like, oh, I'm going to be a supervisor, so I'm just going to walk around and pretend like I'm one now. And I don't know why the actual supervisors allow that to happen, but it was a joke. It's like, dude, shut up, man. You go do it. Like, I hated those people. But that was a thing I noticed. Wannabe supervisors. Wasn't just a one-time thing. Plenty of them there. I already talked about this earlier. In my opinion, they should hire anyone, give them a trial period, then just keep the good people. That way they get paid more. You would need less people to do the same amount of work. I personally didn't want to move up in this company. I probably could have easily. I was talked to multiple times by supervisors and managers. I wasn't interested. For those of you who follow my channel, you know I sell on eBay. So I had this eBay business. I was doing this part-time the whole time I was working on Amazon. And yeah, I never revealed where I actually work. So now you guys know. And I was interested in growing my eBay business, not moving up and spending more time at work. So I had no intention on moving up. In the company, I can't pretend to care about a company that isn't mine. And even if you pay me, I can't pretend. Like some of these supervisors, they do this cheesy stuff. Like, it's not their fault they have to. In the morning, you would do this whole like, you know, motivational speech in front of all these people, and you try to get people to chant, and like no one's doing it, and it's just so cringy and awkward. It's like, dude, you cannot pay me to do that. Like, I don't even care. But if you want to move up, you can. If you're into doing that kind of stuff. Now I'll go over a few personal experiences that were just really bad. I'll just always remember these. I couldn't believe this happened to me. But the first one is we got scheduled overtime. It was supposed to be my first day off, and I got scheduled for a half day of overtime. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's only a half day. I'll make a little bit extra money. And, you know, I didn't bring a lunch or anything. Came in. They do their whole little morning meeting, motivational hurrah thing. At the very last second, the last sentence, they're like, oh, yeah, the people that are in for overtime, that was a mistake. It's not a half day. It's a full day. And then they just kind of like tried to go off like it was no big deal. I was like, hell no, man. That's so bad to do that to someone. I immediately went to HR. I didn't even start working or nothing. Went straight to HR. And I just explained to them, like, instead of half day, you guys are changing it on the spot. Like, that's not right. And then this lady was like some hipster, like looked like a chicken nugget on a stick, was getting all this attitude towards me. Like, no, it was like that. Like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, look on my thing. It said a half day. And she starts giving me attitude. She's supposed to be helping you. She's HR. I ended up like saying it was bullshit, using that word, like swearing, like this is fucking bullshit and all this thing. Like, I thought I was going to get fired. I thought I was going to get a talking to. And because of the way I was talking to this lady, I've never been that enraged at a job where I was talking to someone like that. But she was talking to me like that too. Because even after I was done, and she basically said, too bad. Someone that was behind me came up to me and was like, yeah, that was really rude how she was treating you and all that. So I go back to my normal supervisor. I'm telling her, I'm like, look, this is bullshit. You guys didn't say this. It's supposed to be a half day. You're trying to change it up on me last second. They bring over the head guy of the building, like the main dude of the whole building. And I'm talking to him, going off, telling him how wrong this was. And he walks me all the way down to HR. And he's like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll take care of it, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, you know, you just, you know, work the half day. We'll see what's up. I worked the half day, so pissed off the whole time. And then the half day I just left. They never ended up. And then so basically because I left, I had to use my time for the rest of the day because technically I was scheduled, even though I wasn't. So because I just left and they ended up eating up like 6 hours of my time or something like that, I never got that back. It was just, I couldn't believe they did that. that was the point where I was like, why do I even try for this company anymore? You got half these people just like walking around here doing nothing, not even capable of doing the job. I'm like, doing work for them, and then they're going to treat me like that. Like, nah. I thought I was going to get fired at that point, but no one ever talked to me. No one said nothing. No one came up to me and did anything. I was literally cursing out an HR rep, and no one said anything to me. Couldn't believe it. Also, one other situation, they're supposed to job rotate you, so you're not doing the same job every day, because then you'll be using the same muscles every day. And so I was put on this one job that like only maybe like half dozen people knew how to do. So, you would get put on that job a lot. I didn't mind doing it, but yeah, I would probably be there like, 3 of the 4 days a week, I'd be doing the same thing. And one time, just in the morning, just like an hour into the shift, I lifted something, just my back just hurt real bad. And like something happened, and then I continued to work till first break. At first break, they have like a safety like department type thing where they have like some medical people there, not real doctors or anything like that, but just something like that. And I go to them and I'm like, look, my back, it just went out or something. And the first thing they said was like, oh, were you lifting properly? But they want you to admit that you weren't lifting properly, so they're not responsible for your injury. First thing that came out of these people's mouth. They say they care about safety all the time, and safety is their number one priority. No, it's not the number one priority at all. They're trying I'm telling this person I'm hurt, and the first thing they're trying to do is get me to admit that it was my fault. I'm like, no, I was lifting properly, man. My back hurts. It's messed up. So they're like, we'll keep an eye on it. Let me know. And I'm like, all right. So I go back to work. I tell my supervisor, like, look, I messed up my back. It hurts. I can continue to work. It's fine, but I'm going to be going slower. I'm not going to be able to do the pace that I normally do. The very first word that came out of that supervisor's mouth was, well, at least we don't have that much CPTs. CPTs are the packages that have to go out that day. Otherwise they'll be late. It's like, and this person I respected too until this point. They were like, I told them my back's messed up, and the first thing that came out of their mouth was their numbers, how they weren't going to be affected. Pissed me off so much. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just a couple stories. So I worked there for a long time. That's why I have all these experiences. Would I recommend it for someone? If you're working like fast food or like retail or something like that, this job is obviously a lot better than something like that. But if you need like a real job with like really good pay because you got a family and everything, probably not going to work if this is your only income, unless you plan on moving up. If you can move up to like a manager or something, you get paid pretty good, to be honest. So, I mean, if you're into that and you want to do the whole leadership thing and that's what you're about, go for it. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my experience. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.
So I think in the future, I'm going to make a part 2 to this video. After watching the footage I just recorded, there was a lot that I left out, a lot of stories I didn't mention, and just a lot I still wanted to say. So in the future, I'll do a part 2 to this video. Thank you guys for watching.